Hi everybody, and welcome to another Griniflix Adventure8 video. Today we're going to be talking about setting up my second adventure vehicle. Travel around Australia, travel around the world. So I've been doing adventure travel since I was so high, and whether it be motorcycling or four-wheel driving or hiking, however, and it's been exciting. Obviously I've developed a lot of skills along the way, and in addition to that, obviously photography has been my passion, and being able to combine those two has been fantastic. So I thought, well, I've got my super duper Landcruiser, Toyota Landcruiser, and it's gone all over the place in Australia. Well, Australia, it hasn't gone overseas at this stage, in Australia. So it's done the Simpson Desert, there's a link there. It's done the Canning Stock Route and the Gun Barrel Highway, and there'll be a couple of links as well. All these links will be in the description down below. And Cape York, just to mention, has gone around Australia a few times, and I've learnt a lot. And in my motorcycle travel around the world, there was a recent trip that we did to the Himalayas, also there somewhere, plus crossing the Sahara on a motorcycle with my wife back in 1990. Another link. All these videos are on my YouTube channel, and there is playlists for motorcycle adventures and four-wheel drive adventures, and playlists also for photography, so for the different equipment that I use, etc. So I thought, well, okay, if I was designing a new vehicle, what would it be? What would be the fundamentals that I'm looking for? Is it there to replace my Troopy? Is it there to complement my Troopy? And we can discuss all of those things, and also how to set it up, what goes in there and everything. So there'll be a series of videos that would follow. I will create a playlist around this, so as the videos are being created, you can always go back and see specific things. But this first one, I thought, well, let's just talk about the fundamentals of what I'm looking for, or what will be the scoreboard, what will be the things by which every decision is judged. And pulling on my experience from so many years of travel around the world, and on motorcycles particularly, because one of the biggest issues with motorcycles is weight. So I came up with a list. This is my list, and here's the list. So let's just talk about each one of these things on the list. So the first one that's really important, I think this probably goes to fundamental decision making, is keep it simple. So that's the first one. The second one is lightweight. Everything is to do with weight and size. The lighter it is, the smaller it is, the easier it is to travel, to do things, etc. Flexibility and modular, that is really important. You can design for one particular situation, but you can bet your bottom dollar that it's not that long before you have to change that situation, and therefore you got to be able to be flexible. I think in today's world, where things change on such a rapid rate, to have that agility and flexibility is so important for survival as a whole, but if you're designing something, that is fundamental as well. Accessibility, that's something I noticed with my Troopy, is if you're young and agile, or older and agile, it's all very good, but not everyone has the same agility as me, and others have a lot more agility than me. So having accessibility and make it easier to get to things rather than necessarily climbing right on top of the roof like I do on the Troopy, which can be quite dangerous in some situations. So accessibility was important. Number 5, so we're up to 5 now, sustainability and reusability. There's a number of things there. Obviously sustainability is important for life, for everyone on this planet. To reuse something saves a lot of energy, a lot of carbon, So reusability, why not repurpose something? Why not get something second-hand as well? It doesn't always have to be new, and I'll be looking for that in my next vehicle. I won't be necessarily buying new stuff. Wherever possible, I will buy second-hand, or wherever possible, I will reuse. Multifunctional. If you can get an item or something that can be used for another purpose, just by tweaking it slightly, rather than just having it for one purpose. For example, you could have a pen, which is for writing, or you can have that same pen for poking holes in paper, so it's multifunctional. So that's what I mean by multifunctional. So they are the 6 fundamentals that I will be applying to every decision-making point in setting up my next vehicle. So why don't we try and see whether we can actually apply this. And let's apply it to the first decision that has to be made is, what will that vehicle be? So why don't we go for a walk and have a look. So choosing the next vehicle hasn't been easy, and I've taken my time. In fact, even while I've had the Troopy, the Landcruiser Toyota, for over 10 years now. And in that time, and all my travels, I've obviously seen a lot of different vehicles, and they all have their pros and cons. While the Troopy was on tour, I also did get a number of different four-wheel drives, so I'd have something local here in Sydney as well. And one that I was really impressed with, and it's actually the type of vehicle is the most popular selling type of vehicle in Australia. And that is the twin cab ute. And that's exactly what I've decided to do. I've decided to have my next vehicle a twin cab ute that can be modified and adjusted to suit my requirements, and here it is. So I've gone for a Toyota Hilux, sticking with the brand, and second hand. So this particular one is 5 years old. It's got about 60-odd thousand kilometers on it. I will be keeping a track of all the expenses associated in setting this vehicle up, plus all the bits and pieces that go in it. And I'll show that at the end, or in the description, or somewhere in the video as I go as well. But let's maybe go inside and we can talk about how does this vehicle stack up against the decision criteria, the fundamentals. Well, inside the car it's obviously quite modern and all the luxuries you would expect in a car like this. It seats 5 people, so I've just got the back seats up right now so that you can have that for storage as well, in addition to all the space that's in the back of the ute here and the roof. But we can talk about that a bit later on as far as what my ideas are there. But how does this car stack up for my magic list here? So the first item was simple. Is it simple? As simple, maybe it's not as simple as as a push bike, but it's by today's standards, it's not really that complicated. Yes, there are electronics and there's a bunch of things like that, and electronics, you just have to rely on them working all the time. But the car. But the Hilux, and the Hilux has a reputation for being indestructible. It's proven to its brand, it's reliable. So the reliability and simplicity is key. So I suspect if I'm rating it out of 10 as being the ultimate simplicity, and 0 would be the most complex thing on this planet, then I'd give it probably a score of 8 on that one. Lightweight. Okay, so let's make a comparison for this size vehicle, which is not dissimilar to the Troopy. It just the configuration is different. Okay. So that is, and also the Troopy as far as its height and bulk. If you think about a brick flying through the air, the Troopy is a bigger brick than the Hilux. So it's, even though the volume that you can use for carrying and for comfort is about the same, the Hilux is more streamlined even when you start putting things onto it than the Troopy. So yes, it's lighter weight, I'd say 30% lighter, And yeah, so that's I think it's scored quite well. If again out of 10, I would probably put it around the 8 mark, and that would be true for any of the dual cab utes. Flexibility and modular. Well, this is the second twin cab ute I've had. Hilux, in fact. So I had the previous model to this one, and I did find it to be very flexible. The fact that you can put stuff in the back, you can have the lid up, you can take the lid off, so that the type of things you put in the ute can be of much larger volume than the car itself. So in that sense, it was more flexible than the Landcruiser Troopy. So again, out of 10, I would say I'll give it another 8, I suspect. Accessibility. Everything is lower to the ground here than the Troopy, so it scores better than the Troopy on that one. You still have to climb up, so I'll give it about a 6 or a 7 out of 10 for that. Sustainability and reusability. Okay, so this is second hand. It's 5 years old already, and so yes, it scored well on that. Sustainability, well, I'm not entirely sure on all the sustainable components of this car and what Toyota's policy is on that one. I'm sure it can be improved a lot. So let's just give it about a 5 out of 10 at this stage. If it was brand new, well, obviously, I don't know whether that would change it, but anyway, let's say 5 or 6 out of 10. Multifunctional. Okay, so being a smaller car, as far as volume, what it appears to be smaller, but in volume it's about the same. What I like about it is that it doubles up as my round town car, as well as it will be my second adventure vehicle to support the Landcruiser Troopy. The Landcruiser Troopy will be the main vehicle always. It's got all the recovery gear, the winches and everything else that you need for just about any situation. This will be a great second vehicle to accompany that in certain trips, and this will be a great vehicle when I'm doing shorter trips, either solo, photographic trips, guests or clients want to drive themselves. Then this could be a vehicle that comes as a second vehicle for my client or my guest to drive. The passenger compartment here is like a sedan. It's very comfortable, so you don't feel like you're driving a four-wheel drive or an adventure vehicle. It's actually really nice. Obviously the suspension ride is quite firm, so you do notice it when you're driving around town. It is automatic, so it makes it even easier to drive as well compared to manual. Personally, I prefer manuals, but I thought I'd go for an automatic this time, and this means that this vehicle will be easier to drive by most people. So multifunctional, I think it scores really quite high again. I think it's probably around an 8 on that, and I think it's going to be a great vehicle. Anyway, so that's a first decision that had to be made, was what will that second vehicle be, and it's a Hilux, a Toyota Hilux twin cab ute, and it scores quite well. I'll put the score up on the video so you'll be able to see that, and then I'll also create that spreadsheet so we can start to monitor all the costs that actually go into preparing the second vehicle, so we know what the end result is. What is the budget for this project? I'm not entirely sure, but as a starting point, this car new would probably be around 70,000 Australian dollars. I bought this second hand for $39,000 plus a few extra costs, stamp duties, etc. So that's a starting point, and now the rest will be how to fit this out. The next step will be what sort of canopy needs to go over the back of the ute, which will be basically the shell within which the whole car is designed for adventure travel. So that will be the next video. What will I choose? So do subscribe, and come back and comment. It'd be interesting to see whether you're actually in this task also. We're in this stage of humanity where travel has become really difficult within a country and also between countries. Now is a good time to rethink about going forward and maybe using this time in a productive manner. So that's what I'm going to do. Use this time to actually create this second vehicle. So when things do resolve themselves, we're ready for travel and for people to come and join and share in some of these adventures that I do. So do subscribe, like, and comment, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.